Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the Bolt City Podcast. Dave Palais, Josh Palais, and Mario Heron talking Charger football with you. Of course, leading into the last regular season game of the season as the Chargers go on the road to take on the Denver Broncos. But guys, before we get started as far as Charger football goes, we'll talk about the events as we record this show on a Tuesday of what happened on Monday Night Football. We're all looking forward to the game between the Buffalo Bills and Cincinnati Bengals. And the way we promoted it was the only game of the week where it was two teams with winning records that were going to face each other. And all the excitement factor of Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, two teams that wouldn't surprise anybody if those two teams end up in the AFC Championship game. And then all of a sudden, 5 minutes remaining in the first quarter, things take a turn for the worst. And one of those where, nobody sees it coming, right? When you see a devastating injury or you see a game stoppage, I think we're all used to times where guys get injured and then, whether the medical staff comes out, then you get a little bit nervous if you bring out basically the board to see if it's a neck injury, and you're always looking for, his extremities. Are they moving? Did the guy break his neck? And that's the first thing that goes through your mind as a football fan that has watched the game forever going, that's the worst thing that can happen is the guy paralyzed? And the way it ran on television was the tackle was made by Damar Hamlin, and then of course next camera angle, and they go to the coaches or the quarterbacks, and then all of a sudden there's a stoppage and Damar Hamlin's down on the ground, and they have to show different angles of why he is on the ground, and it was very scary right away, and right away you could see it was different from the players, the medical staffs on both teams who got involved, that we didn't know what was going on as viewers, but at the same time, I'll ask you guys always joke around about my age, but you guys are younger than me. I've never seen anything like it on a football field. In that situation, the look on everyone's face around to what happened to Hamlin. I will say this, though, that going back, and this is before you guys were born, but I'm sure most of our audience will remember this. There was a basketball player named Hank Gathers, who at the time led college basketball in scoring and rebounding in the same season, was going to be a first-round pick, played for Loyola Marymount, takes an alley-oop pass in the tournament, and dunks the basketball, and then two steps up the court, collapses, looked just like the way Hamlin went down, arms up, down on the ground, had a heart attack. He died right on the floor in front of everybody, not only on TV, but everybody in the arena. And it was devastating, not only because of the player, his age. At the time I lived in Los Angeles, I was in the Los Angeles area. It was just such an amazing, sad story. And the way Hamlin fell looked so familiar to me there. And I'm sure there are people who are listening and going, I remember that. And that is exactly how it looked. And, if you want to YouTube it, you don't have to do that. But it was scary right away. Now, I'm not saying that I was able to diagnose what was going on, because I had no idea what was going on. I was just looking at whatever ESPN, ABC was giving us. But guys, from your point of view, when you see a player go down, what is, and Josh, I'll direct it towards you because you played most recently. You're always around a ton of injuries when you're playing football. I'm sure they happen in practice too at Alabama. But when a player gets hurt, in your mind, do you go, okay, what's the severity of the injury? Is he going to be back soon? What is he going to be available? This weekend, is he going to be available to come back in the game? What's going through your mind as a player?
When you see an injury, you always want to look at how it happened, obviously. If it's a non-contact injury, we always know those are the worst ones. Those are when you tear your Achilles or tear your ACL, something of that nature. There's other times where people just get cramps. You kind of can always tell when that happens. There's also times where guys take huge hits, and you always look at the neck and the head. And you say, hopefully they're okay, because those are the scariest injuries. Those are the second scariest injuries. What happened yesterday where a guy collapses is by far the scariest thing that can happen, because you have no idea why he collapsed. You don't know what happened. People on Twitter are quick to jump on the COVID vaccine, which I thought was really strange. I don't know why people took that angle. You see people that are actually credible that were saying they think he was hit in a spot where it stopped his heart, and that had something to do with a condition he might have. I don't know anything. I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to pretend like I'm a doctor. When somebody gets hurt, you should just shut up and just kind of pray if that's something you do, and hope for the best, because you never know what happened. And yesterday was extremely scary. There's a strong media personality. If you're hearing this show on Tuesday, January 3rd, you've already seen it by now, that took the wrong angle. He talked about how can you postpone this game? This game means so much to the NFL season. NFL season means nothing compared to somebody's life. The fact that somebody with such a huge platform would say that is disturbing. I'm not calling for somebody to lose their job ever, but the fact that that guy has that platform and he took that angle is mind-boggling to me. I can't believe somebody would say such a disgusting thing when somebody's life is in jeopardy. But like I said, when something like that happens, you just got to hope for the best and pray if that's something that you do, because this guy's life is in limbo at this point in time. He's at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. He was sedated last night. I don't have any other information at this point. I'm just hoping for the best for this guy, because it's really, really scary.
It's so scary, and like you kind of mentioned, it was just seemed like a kind of normal football play. Like there was nothing really crazy about it. That wasn't like a big monstrous hit. We're like, oh my gosh, they were okay. It was just kind of a normal football play. The next, he's collapsed on the ground. Very scary. Just kind of makes you realize how dangerous this game is that we watch every Sunday, every Monday, every Thursday, and just makes you just realize that everything that these guys kind of put on the line for their livelihood, for their family, and just for just people on Sunday to watch their games. So it's very just kind of crazy, just shocking moment. Pray, like, honestly, like, I think everyone can say it's just nonstop and praying, just nonstop hope for the best for the family and for the Buffalo Bills, and just hopefully that he can get in stable condition, that he can be okay. And just what as someone that's very young, and with when it comes to like physical sports such as like football, I'm gonna count in just saying kind of combat sports, race, or anything like that. I think nowadays the way I think, and maybe some others think I might be the one, but I'm like, oh, with today's technology, we're so far advanced. Like something like this just won't happen because technology is so good. The helmets now are so much better. We were teaching a hit, it's so much different. And then we just have moments like this, it kind of makes you realize, no, like this is still a physical game. This is still such a dangerous game where anything can happen. But I don't know. It's crazy. It's sad, and just hope for the best.
So it's just a couple things. One is because everyone now, whether you're in the media or not, if you have access to Twitter, you're basically in the game, right? You have an opinion. Your opinion right now, you can get it out there as quick as you can. Whether you're somebody who has a national platform, or if you're somebody with just even 3 followers, you have a platform to sit there and state your opinion. Now, if you want to take the angle of just trying to get a reaction, it's always dangerous when you do it in a life and death situation, which it was last night. It wasn't. I'll be the first to tell you, when it comes to Padre baseball, I'm a jerk on Twitter. Okay. But I'm just trying to get a reaction. I would never, ever, go about what some people do on Twitter. Remember, this is a human being. This is a kid. As I always say, if you're younger than me, you're a kid, which means, a lot of people are kids, as you guys tell me all the time. I'm pretty old. But he has a mom. He has a family. There are people at home who are watching. There are people who went to high school with that kid that are cheering for that kid. There are people who went to college with him that are cheering for that kid. And you sit there and you're going, this is a serious situation. For me, the game obviously becomes secondary. I Josh and I were in different rooms, but I saw Josh. I said, "Oh my God, something serious just happened. This is nuts." And when people want to be first instead of being accurate, and that's what happens when you have access to Twitter, that's when it gets really dangerous. And so when people are guessing or they make things political, like you just brought up, and you aren't wrong, the COVID story is going everywhere, but that's just political. Those are people that are sitting there trying to put their political views and make their statement in the wrong arena. This is the wrong time to sit there and make your stand as far as saying, politics brought something onto this kid. That's not what happened. The kid went into cardiac arrest is what we know. Right now, he's not able to breathe on his own. As we do the show right now, he's unable to do the breathe on his own, and that's the most concerning part. The game, the NFL will figure everything out. It was extremely scary yesterday. It was very frustrating, and for people, I think for the most part, and for the people that obviously write to me on Twitter, and I know you guys are active on Twitter, I think 99% of the people's mind and hearts were in the right place. And like you said, you pray for them, you think good thoughts for them. Nobody wants to see something bad happen to this kid. Mari brought up the point about the equipment in the NFL. The NFL equipment has never been better, safer than ever. Here's the deal, and we might have spoken about this on the show before, but when I first got into covering Charger football all the way back in 1994, the last 5 minutes of the fourth quarter, they would allow the media members to go and stand on the sideline for these games. And we would be, right there, as close as, Marty Schottenheimer is to the plays on the field. And I was always amazed, and I played the game too, and it is, if you played high school football and you think it's fast, you played college football, you think it's fast, you have no idea what it's like at the NFL level. It is so fast and so violent that I have told people near me, and I've said, someone's going to die on this football field one day. And then what happens? And the guy I used to think about was the jersey that's right behind me right now is Junior Seau, because Junior Seau was just such a freak. He's built like a bodybuilder, and he was one of the fastest guys on the field. And I'm like, he's going to kill somebody. He's so fast and strong. I can't imagine contact with Junior Seau hitting someone that's not ready for it. Thank goodness that never happened. Yesterday is what I thought happened until I saw the replay, and then you go, no, that wasn't it. It was dangerous. I'll say it right now, for the three of us, we're all huge NFL fans. It's like the old days where, the guys are in the Coliseum and the people are cheering, and people fight to the death, and we keep showing up and we keep watching. And guess what? I'll be watching the next NFL game on TV. It's not going to deter me from becoming a fan of this game. I'm a fan of the NFL, and this was a horrible accident that happened. Here's where the NFL has messed up. As there's so many different angles to take. I don't want to spend the whole show on this, but people, the NFL just cares about money. Look, to defend the NFL, at no point did the NFL say you have to get back on the field and play. The players, the coaches, there was that 5 minutes that we all heard about, and when Joe Buck said it, that's what the rule book said. 5-minute break on. This was different circumstances. All right, so the players don't go back on the field. The Players Association has always been represented by garbage guys, and that's why the Players Association is trash and always has been trash. You look at Major League Baseball, and you look at the NBA, and you look at the NHL, and their union is basically run by attorneys and lawyers. For some reason, the NFL goes with ex-players. Why? Why would you go with an ex-player? The only sport that doesn't have guaranteed contracts is the NFL. The most violent sport doesn't have guaranteed contracts. So if they want to cut you, basically, you don't get paid. The only money you can guarantee you get paid in the NFL is your signing bonus. And that is it. Otherwise, they cut you and they don't owe you a dime. You do not get insurance. You do not. Everyone has seen these stories. How the NFL players, the average NFL player dies at age 53. The average, you don't get your pension until age 55. The NFL knows what they're doing. You don't get your pension unless you played 4 years in the league. The average NFL player plays 2.5 years in the league. The NFL owners know what they're doing. You know why? Because they're represented by attorneys. And the fact that the NFL's Players Association has dropped the ball on this the entire time the NFL has ever existed, they have nobody to blame but themselves. And they're in a terrible situation. They have a terrible union. And when the players, and they stood up yesterday and said, we aren't going back on the field, nobody had an issue with it. Now, maybe ESPN, I don't know, Mario, if you realize how much ESPN pays for those 16 games a year for Monday Night Football. It's $2.7 billion is what they pay. That comes out to $170 million a game. That means ESPN lost $170 million yesterday. At the same time, it's just money, and I say just money because it's not my money. But if ESPN were to say, this is BS, you got to get on it, it would have been such a PR nightmare that ESPN would have never recovered from it. It was worth eating the $170 million to say whatever is best for the player and these two teams to play this angle and go about it that way. And that's why, as again, if you're an established media member or a person that basically has concern for your own reputation, you don't go on social media and write crazy things.
Yeah, I think you said it very well. It's going to be hard to pivot to another topic, but I think, we spent 15 minutes on this, so it's time to talk about something else. What do you guys want to start? Do you guys want to start with the playoff picture, where the Chargers sit?
You know what? Real quick, let's go with what I teased last, Josh. And again, it's not easy to pivot, so I kind of put you guys in a bad spot. I teased this when the show ended, so I just want to make sure we want to pay off the tease, as they say in the business. I asked the question to you guys coming up on the next show: have Brandon Staley and his coaches done enough to keep their jobs for 2023? And that's where I left it off. And then because the Denver Broncos are about to make a big move on a coach, and I'm just curious to know, in your guys' opinion, have Brandon Staley and his coaching staff done enough to this point? Even if you lose in the first round to Jacksonville or Tennessee, have they done enough?
I sound like such a hypocrite for everything I've said for the first 15 weeks of the season. Brandon Staley, I think, has done enough to keep his job. He's done just enough to keep his job. I can't say that about Joe Lombardi. The Chargers have scored 30 points 3 times with Justin Herbert. That's not grounds to keep your job in my eyes. Even though with all the injuries, I still don't think Joe Lombardi should be safe. But I do think Brandon Staley's done enough. They're going to make the playoffs. They look really good going into the playoffs. I think he's done enough.
I don't want to be the guy that says, you made the playoffs and be the guy that says, oh, you're done no matter what. Yeah, peace out. Have fun.
No, that's me. I'm that guy. I just said that.
So huge for Staley that you got the playoff, because I think if they did not get playoffs 2 years in a row with this team, he's 100% out. I do think that if the Chargers go in the playoffs, and let's just say if they face the Jaguars, I think it's all three of us will say it's probably will be the Jaguars. They stay in that 5th spot. So let's say they face them, and it's another 31-10 game. Staley's, I don't feel confident. Staley, I would say Staley, this was not a good year. You're on a hot seat 110%, especially when, we've talked about before, there's other coaches, Super Bowl coach, offensive genius, who's out there and could be snooping around at your job. So I think that will play a huge factor in just my decision-making, going, okay, but how will you look in the playoffs? It is so great to go on a winning streak right before the playoffs, clinch a playoff spot. It's also one thing to be in the dance, right? Now, if you're an organization that's just fine with being in the dance, good for you. That is great. But when you want to have success in there, then that's a whole nother thing. Do you want to be the Bengals and have Martin Lewis, who clinches the division every other year, and then you go in the playoffs and you stink? Okay, go to that nirvana. You'll get stuck in. Or do you want to be a contender? I think that's a real difference with Staley. It's like, if we're going to be a contender, if you win in the playoffs, then yeah, I think you should stay. But if not, then I think you got to move on to the better option. When it comes to Lombardi, I don't care what happens at the end of the year. Lombardi, pack the car. I just don't really understand it. It's back-to-back years when the rushing game has not been up to par, and you have Austin Eckler. You're not even top 10 in points per game. You're 5th in passing yards. And when you look at this offense statistically, that's pretty much the only stat that they really stand out in. I mean, they're 8th best on third down conversion. That's only up because of recently. You're 20th in yards per play. You're 19th in red zone offense. You're barely making it in top 10 in total yards. And a lot of that comes from the passing. Well, congratulations. You have a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, so you should be up there. And we're going to talk about the Broncos later. But if you go back to that Broncos game, we have 3 timeouts on just over a minute left, and we get absolutely nothing. That game, we only had Keenan Allen out. We still had Mike Williams. How the hell do we not get him open during that span of time? Why aren't we pushing the ball downfield? All of that I have questions for, and saying you're not owning up to that. You are not taking advantage of the talent you have on this offense. Bye. Absolutely bye. We should be a top 3 offense, top 5 in every category. And the fact that we are only top 5 in 1 and top 10 in, as I count, 3 of the 8 I have, that's pretty embarrassing. We should not be having that at all.
So Tom Telesco's job is to always make the team better, right? He's always looking for guys to help make the team better. So when whether it's a left tackle, whether it's a cornerback, Tom Telesco's looking to upgrade whatever he can possibly do. That's why I say it goes for coaches too. And the only thing at this point maybe that keeps Lombardi keeping his job is winning a Super Bowl. Otherwise, I'm with you as far as it's time to say goodbye. But I'm also in the same situation with Staley. If you can upgrade and go with a coach that you think can get more out of Justin Herbert, because let's be honest, he's the franchise. And right now, Josh just pointed it out. Are you getting the most out of Justin Herbert? How many times have you scored 30 points in a game? You aren't. They have been an offensive disappointment. Now, yeah, they've had a ton of injuries. But when the guys have come back, they still haven't been scoring the 30 points a game. And so you become a little bit frustrated. And the teams that they scored the 30 points a game against, Josh, did they have winning records? I mean, so real quick, I just pulled it up. They did not. The teams they scored 30 points a game were against the Texans, Browns, and Rams. Those are the teams that scored 30 points. 34 against the Texans, 30 against the Browns, 31 against the Rams. That's crazy to think they haven't scored even 35 points a game. And so if you have a chance to upgrade, I'm all for it. Firing a coach, I understand it's not easy because the general manager, the one person that he is in constant contact with, is the head coach. And who's the one that hired that head coach? It was the general manager. There's a different relationship. It's a tough move. The Chargers have done this in the past, by the way. When Marty Schottenheimer went 14-2, they fired him. But Marty kind of pushed the envelope a little bit. Marty was pushing back. He wanted to hire his brother as defensive coordinator, and the Chargers said, no way. And then he went and tried to hire him anyway. And they're like, all right, now it's just like you're fighting the system. We got to get rid of you, Marty. So, and the Chargers maybe haven't ever recovered from it. Anyway, Sean Payton's right there in LA. We've talked about it all year. Offensive genius, guys, quarterback whisperer. The guy has a resume. He's in LA. He's looking to come back and coach again next year. I think there's a big payout that you got to pay the Saints to bring him back. Come on, these are billion-dollar owners. You can pay off that contract. It's not a big deal. Money shouldn't be the reason why you don't hire Sean Payton. Would I go into 2023 saying the Chargers are better because Sean Payton's your coach? Absolutely, I would say it. And just like Brandon Staley, someone else might try and pick him up down the line and say the Chargers made a huge mistake. Fine, but Justin Herbert's the franchise, and right now Staley's not getting the most out of his franchise quarterback.
Yeah, the move has to be Sean Payton. You have him right there. He's the really good looking girl in the room that's looking right back at you. You're like, dude, I gotta take this chance. And Brandon Staley absolutely is going to land on his feet if the Chargers make that decision. He made the playoffs. Teams are going to want him, and I will give Brandon Staley credit for as much as we ragged on him all season. The Chargers were kind of in every game except for the Jaguars. That was a horrible loss, but they do fight. You can't say that about most NFL teams like the Broncos who will give up. Brandon Staley has gotten these guys to fight every game. I'll give him that. But going back to Joe Lombardi, I just do not see any angle the Chargers can take where he's coming back next year. It doesn't make any sense to me. The Bill Walsh and Don Coryell are known for the West Coast offense. Joe Lombardi runs the east to west offense. It's like the craziest offense of all time, where you throw everything behind the line of scrimmage. I don't know who's going to want that going in. I saw this article recently too about Matt Stafford and Lombardi, how they didn't work out because he wasn't getting the most out of him. It's kind of his track record of not getting the most out of quarterbacks that have a ton of talent. So I would really like Sean Payton to come in. I don't know if that's something that Dean will do. I don't think the Chargers really do stuff like that. Dave, you've been around the Chargers longer. Are they the type of team to get rid of a coach that made the playoffs? I know they did it with, and I'm totally Marty Schottenheimer when he went 14-2. Do you think they do it? GM. Yeah, different GM. Do you think they do it? Do you think they do it though? If he makes the playoffs, the Chargers aren't that team.
They unfortunately not that team. You know what team they also aren't? They don't have a trophy in the trophy case. Don't be afraid to be great. I'm sorry, but this is kind of what they do. I mean, the Chargers are known as that team. Those guys that just hate controversy. They can sit there and get walked over all over, but they won't sit there and push back. The Chargers aren't that team. They don't push back. They aren't going to sit there and take control. As Charger fans, we want more. People who are listening to this show, they want more. They want that Lombardi trophy. We want to hold that Lombardi trophy. Unfortunately, it's not going to get done with Lombardi on our staff holding it with us. It's like, hey, we want to hold your grandfather's trophy. Man, look, here's the deal. Sean Payton goes to the Denver Broncos. It's going to really frustrate us, right? We're going to go, damn, you hit it right on the head, Josh. He's that girl in the room who's really good looking at you, unbuttoning her blouse, and you're sitting there just going, looking for your car keys, going, I got to go. You're panicking, and then you're yelling at yourself in the car on the way home that you blew it. That's exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah, Sean Payton's not going to Denver. Why do you think that?
I'm interested in your thoughts on Denver, because I would bet you $100 right now he does not end up in Denver.
There's no way. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of reasons why he doesn't.
The way you've been betting, I'm going to get $100 in a heartbeat. I've seen your bets, especially this week. All right, so here's the deal. Denver, there are two huge names in Denver right now, and I'm glad we're transitioning into this. The two big names in Denver are Sean Payton. Can he fix Russell Wilson? And, of course, Jim Harbaugh. Now, Jim Harbaugh, they said he's done. He's gone out of Michigan, okay? And if you paid attention last year, Jim Harbaugh was trying to get out of Michigan after they lost in the college football playoffs too. But yet nobody offered him a job. It was a big mistake by a lot of teams. I wouldn't be surprised to see Jim Harbaugh get offers from the Colts, from the Broncos. The talk is the money already in Denver is $20 million. That's what they're going to give a head coach next year. They're going to go way above and beyond. We talked about this before. How Stan Kroenke's sister now owns the Denver Broncos. That's Walmart money. There's billions and billions of dollars in that family. That they will not go through another season like this. Like, hey, we got a new owner. Let's see how we can do. Well, that's weird. We don't have the worst season of franchise history with our new owner. Not to their fault. Things didn't work out because of Russell Wilson. You got to bring in an offensive guy. So there's two names that you're hearing all over the place today are the Broncos are going to hire either Jim Harbaugh or Sean Payton to be their guy. And so, money speaks. If you're Sean Payton, can you go in and win? I mean, do you look at that Broncos lineup? And if I'm Sean Payton, I'm like, yeah, I like the receivers they have. I like the fact that money's not a factor. And I think because my ego is insane, I can fix Russell Wilson. You say no, Josh, shaking your head.
Because I know you know that Sean Payton wouldn't want a quarterback that everybody hates. You know he's smarter than that. Nobody wants to have a quarterback that everybody hates. That's such a huge problem. And he already has Vic Fangio as his defensive coordinator, who was the head coach for the Broncos for the last 3 seasons. It's not going to make sense.
This was the plan, but it's not going to work. I'm sorry.
Oh my God. Do you know who Vic Fangio is? So hold on. Do you know who Vic Fangio is, who he brought over when he got the job with the Broncos?
No.
Brandon Staley. None of it makes any sense. Sorry, Mario, you go.
No, you're good. The thing I would say, though, about Peyton is why would you go into a division and have the worst quarterback in the division?
But your ego gets crazy. You think you can fix it. You don't think he thinks he can fix it?
I think he doesn't want the controversy. And then I think with new ownership, too, the new ownership's going to be want to know, like, what's going on. Like, they're not going to – I don't think they'll give as much free reign to Sean Payton as he likes. Like, with the Saints, dude – you couldn't take a piss without Sean Payton knowing. I mean, he knew every single detail of that organization. That's why when people say Cowboys, McCarthy's gone. He's friends with Jerry Jones. And told this by a friend who knows Sean Payton, and he goes, he likes Jerry Jones, but he wouldn't want to work for him. He doesn't want to work for his friend. Jerry Jones is very, how do you say this? Hands-on and wants to hug you and know every single freaking detail you're going to do in your game plan. I don't think he's going to want that. Same thing with the Broncos and new ownership. It's like they're going to want to know everything that you're doing, and he's going to be like, hey, why don't you just trust me? Then plus you have Russell Wilson, who had a Subway ad campaign for about 2 weeks, and he sucked so much that it was off that. Social media, you look up his name, he has more traction for negative than positive. And then on top of that, you have him doing weird crap all the freaking time. I just think that's a lot of attention on you that you're like, I don't want to deal with that at all. And I got to go in a division where right now, I'm going to say Derek Carr is starting back for the Raiders. We all know that's not going to happen. But right now, if you looked at numbers, Russell's at the bottom. And eyeliner Carr is surprisingly still like a little bit on top of him. So that to me is like, why would I take a QB that's the worst in the division when I just left Jameis Winston and the New Orleans Saints? I want a franchise QB, and I think that's what goes into like the Chargers' favor. So,
but if they don't offer him a job, what does he do? Does he go back to TV for another year? I mean, what job is he waiting for?
There's not a good job out there right now. Wait, one more year. There's nothing good out there right now.
Like, let's say
what if he dismisses it? What if he dismisses it? I'm a coach.
What are you talking about?
I mean, Sean Payton goes, look, I'm a coach. I'm not a TV guy. I'm a coach. I'm not. What am I doing here? Like, this is what I do. This is what I love to do.
Yeah, he has money. Yeah. If he had any sense, he'd wait one season.
Quality, and what do you think comes up in one season? Like, what?
Don't say quality of life. Don't say quality of life.
I just said it. What are you going to do?
Dude, what? Quality of life between a TV analyst and a NFL head coach?
Yeah, there's
no competition. No life as a head coach. A TV analyst, you don't do crap for 5 days out of the week.
But you can't win as a TV analyst. When Sunday night,
and he's not going to win with and he's not going to win with any situation he lands in if he comes back.
Yeah.
When you're sitting eating pizza with the Ryan brothers,
dude, why would you jump into a division with Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and the worst team has Devontae Adams, the best receiver in the league? Why would you jump into that?
Ego. It's ego.
He jumped out of the division Tom Brady was in. Why would he jump into this one?
But everywhere Sean Payton goes, people tell him how great he is. Ego.
Okay, but also, like, to that matter, let's just say he decides to wait out 1 year, right? Like, he's like, okay, Chargers don't offer me anything. Broncos, I want to throw up. Cowboys, nothing. And, like, he just wants to wait out a year. A lot of people are really high on Caleb Williams. So there's going to be a whole nother tank crap going on next year for Caleb Williams. Let's just say it's Bryce Young gets taken by Houston. Houston goes, we're going to give Lovie Smith 1 more year because the guys are still fighting for him. So let's just say he sits out another year, goes, I'm going to review the talent. Then you have Chicago. They fired Flus because they realized that Flus isn't the guy. There's a starting quarterback for you in Chicago that you can go develop. He could go there. And then you have, let's say, Baltimore. Like, I think there's so many different things that could happen that, why not wait another year out? with Baltimore as it goes, Harbaugh, we're finally done with you after the 20th freaking season. And, here's Lamar Jackson. So I think just that for him, I think he would rather sit out and wait. And like you said, ego, than go to a team that's very questionable for the future and be like, okay, this is not a ready to win now team. I have to fix so many things and there's bad PR coming our way.
The Bears makes the most sense out of everything
you
said. I think the Bears, because you said, he has an ego. If he could fix a team whose offense has historically sucked, he's the man.
He would replace Jordan. They would take the Jordan statue and they throw it away. They would throw it away. No one would know who George S. Hallis was ever again. Papa Bear would be an afterthought.
You're going to get struck by lightning. Look, what, you can just take that Jordan statue and push it right in Lake Michigan?
Yeah, replace the Jerry Sloan statue with...
Look. Okay, look. All right, you guys threw a bunch of things at me right now. Number one, Sean Payton again. We'll stay with the ego part because I honestly believe that, man. You won a Super Bowl, you got an ego. And again, no one tells you suck to your face. Everyone basically kisses your rear end. If the Dallas Cowboys happen to lose, let's say game 1 of the playoffs to Tampa Bay, they're firing their coach. Straight out, they're firing him. There's no way he's keeping his job. You tell me that the Dallas Cowboys, and they do have talent, all right? They do have an established quarterback. Might not be a great one, but he's a franchise quarterback, that he wouldn't want to go to the number 1 media team with his ego and be part of the Cowboys if that job came available?
But he's gonna have to tell Jerry, dude, you can't micromanage me. I don't get micromanaged. I'm sure
Jerry promises that to everybody, and he did this. He did it to Bill Parcells, and Bill Parcells is one of those guys that said, "Well, you can't push Bill around. You always push those guys around. He has the money."
How many years did they give Jason Garrett?
That was ridiculous.
And McCarthy
how did that work? Yeah, well, not with the Cowboys.
He screwed his way to the middle, Jason Garrett.
All right, so here you go. I got to throw this one back at you. Let's come back around to it. Would you take Staley or do you take Jim Harbaugh as your head coach for the Chargers?
Jim Harbaugh has a crazy winning record in the NFL.
44-19-1. 44-19-1 in the NFL. That's unheard of. It's amazing, dude, the job he has done as a head coach in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Jim Harbaugh fan at all, but if he's available, I would take him for sure.
What do you think?
It's a long time since he's been in the NFL, right? 4 years, 5 years? Longer than that. 6 years?
Longer than that, yeah.
Yeah. That part would scare me a little bit, is that you're out and then you're coming back in. And that, Harbaugh is great, but with his personality and his persona and everything, when that goes wrong, that doesn't go just a little bit wrong. That goes way wrong.
Yeah.
And that's so with that, I think I would still just stay with Staley. I would stay with Staley. I'd be like, you know what? New OC, keep Staley. I wouldn't trust Harbaugh enough. Which sounds crazy because I know Super Bowl appearance and he has lots of success.
Would you want Harbaugh as do you think Harbaugh would be a good coach for the Bears?
Oh my God, with his style of offense too? Yeah. It's ground and pound for a little bit, and then you pop up a pass every once in a while. Yeah.
And he's coaching Justin Fields, the guy that beat his butt for all those years at Michigan. Be great.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there any OC that's out there that you'd want for the Chargers? If they do get rid of Joe Lombardi, is there a name? Somebody you think's available that would be good?
I don't know. I want a guy that's established.
What about your boy from the Chiefs?
No, Eric Bieniemy? No, Eric Bieniemy probably. That'd be interesting. Eric Bieniemy would have to be the head coach for him to go for. It would be a lateral move if he went OC inside their own division. He'd have to be the head coach, but I don't think Bieniemy knows anything.
They say he doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah. I would call everyone on the 49ers offensive staff.
Yes,
that's what I would do. I'd call every single one of them.
Yeah.
Or the Vikings. What? I've watched the Vikings. I'm like, whoever's calling their plays, it looks pretty good to me too.
Yeah, I would definitely do that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what direction we end up going with that. Anyway, the head coaching situation will be crazy, as they call it, Black Monday. We'll find out after Week 18 in the NFL season, as usually 7 jobs open up every single year to see where guys go. Chargers, we won't find out till after the postseason, but I am curious to know what happens with Staley. And if I was a betting person, Mario, I would definitely say that Staley's keeping his job. I don't think the Chargers make a move. I don't think it's in their nature. Let's go. Let's break down this playoff picture. What are you guys looking at right now, and which way things you think are going to go?
You're talking about matchup wise?
Matchup wise. So I'll start with you right now in the AFC, because here's the deal. As we know right now, Cincinnati, Buffalo, it looks like that game's not going to be played, and people say, well, it's not fair. Some teams had to play 17 games. Some teams had to play 16 games. Look, during COVID, they told teams, look, there might be teams that play 2 more games in a season than another team, but you're just going to have to go with it. That's just the way it is. And so I think in this situation we saw on Monday night, I don't think there are teams that are going to complain. If anything, it benefits the Chiefs, that the Chiefs are the ones with the number 1 seed. The Bills are going to have to play, obviously, first week of the playoffs. The Chiefs will get that number 1 seed in the bye. So right now, the way it sets up, guys, is will be number 2 Buffalo will be hosting number 7 New England, which is kind of funny. 2 teams that will face each other now 3 times in the season. You have number 3 Cincinnati taking on number 6 Baltimore, and then you have number 4 Tennessee or Jacksonville hosting the number 5 LA Chargers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
you like? I'm asking you guys. Do you like the fact that? Do you like the fact that says, the teams inside the division will face each other in the postseason, or do you would prefer it if they push those guys aside so they don't have to face each other 3 times, at least in the first week of the playoffs?
Dude, in football, I am all for interdivision playoff games. In baseball, I hate it because you play each other 19 games a year. It's like the dumbest thing in the world. But in football, give me a third matchup. I love the third matchup in football. I think it's great. Love it in college football, love it in the NFL. Third matchup playoff games are the best.
I'm with you.
They're amazing. I'm going to compare it to, like, how great was it? I mean, we're UNC fans, but when UNC and Duke faced in the Final Four, how great was that?
Amazing.
Yeah, it's like, it's amazing. So, like, stuff like that, I am all for, especially when you get to passionate fan bases, Buffalo Bills and New England Patriots. I'm all for it. It's also just, I'm saying this, I'm not even a Bills fan, but I think of it all the time. I bet it's so great as a Bills fan to be like, we could get the Patriots a third time and just stick it to them and just go, this is payback for the 10 years you had with Brady, or 15 years where you guys just pounded us every day. Here's a little revenge, Bill. Like, I bet that's a really great feeling that they get to rub in. So I'm all for it. Like, I love it. Bengals, Ravens possibly getting to face each other one more time after week 18. If everything falls through, I'd absolutely love that. Plus, you get like the little, used to be us last week. Here we go again this week. Oh, I'm in love with it. I wish I could marry it.
All right, here you go. In the NFC, it looks like this. Number 1, Philadelphia. Things can change. I mean, it's amazing where Philadelphia was. What I find fascinating, as we kind of did our MVP picks a few weeks ago, and Jalen Hurts where he stood at the time. It's funny. I think my pick at the time was Tua, which obviously wouldn't be Tua as your MVP. But Jalen Hurts took a lot of heat from people who were saying, look, any quarterback could win with this Eagles team, and Jalen's getting way too much credit. Well, that's weird because Jalen missed 2 games and they went 0-2. Not only did they go 0-2, they lost to the Saints, and they didn't look very competitive. All of a sudden, the Eagles, by the way, to me, look like they have a lot of holes. They aren't as impressive as what we thought, and things that don't even affect Jalen, like all of a sudden their defense, it looks terrible, especially the secondary. But you have number 1 Philadelphia as we go into the last week of the season. Number 2 San Francisco hosting number 7 Seattle. There you go, right there. Again, 2 teams inside the same division now going to face each other 3 times if things hold up. Number 3 Minnesota taking on number 6 the New York Giants. Number 4 Tampa Bay against number 5 Dallas. And a couple weeks ago, guys, we were saying Tampa Bay is a one and done. I mean, they're going to be in and it will be out. Tom Brady, as much as we've goofed on him and the whole NFL has given up on old man Tom has found a way to win at the end, like he always has. And it hasn't looked pretty at all. But, man, all of a sudden, I think that a lot of people who weren't Brady fans who now just appreciate what Brady is in his career, kind of like the Derek Jeter move at the end of his career where you're like, I kind of want to see him get the 3,000 hits and hit home runs, and kind of like you're looking at a legend and you want to see greatness. And I think Tom's coming back next year. But Tampa Bay, would it surprise you guys if Tampa Bay knocked off the number 5 seed Dallas Cowboys in Tampa Bay?
Not at all. That Cowboys team is the most flawed defense. The Vikings and the Cowboys are pretenders, in my opinion. I think the Cowboys defense is super trash. Tom Brady, I'm never going to bet against him. I've done that in the past. It always bites me in the ass. So I'm never going to bet against Tom Brady. And Mike Evans looks like the Mike Evans of old. He's just balling. So I'm definitely not going to write off the Bucs. I expect the Cowboys to win because they have the much better team, but I'm not going to write off the Buccaneers. I'm actually really looking forward to that matchup if that's what happens.
I'm really looking forward to it. It's a tale of two guys that stand on completely different spectrums in NFL playoffs. Tom Brady, the guy you never want to face. Dak Prescott, let's face him every time. I think that's going to be very interesting. And just remember last year, literally the worst handling of a late minute game the last year that McCarthy had with the Cowboys. Wow. So that was truly one of the worst just mishandling of a situation I've ever seen in my life. I could have done better in Madden. Pretty banged up. I could have done a better job. So I think that part's really interesting too. And, we always say you don't want to face Tom, you want to bet against Tom. And I would say up until last week, he hasn't been like the Tom that we've seen. And then this Bucs team has a lot of weird question marks. So that game to me is just going to be, it's going to be such a disaster, but just so interesting to see, all right, who's going to come out on top, and can any of this team even make a run in the second round after they even win past the first? That's going to be a game that's going to be a little ick. It's going to be a lot of ick in that game.
It's God dang. Can you imagine if Mike McCarthy loses again? I mean, I think we all can, but it's such a big story. I mean, it feels like that Niners Cowboy playoff game a year ago happened yesterday. There's so much time spent on the way the Cowboys couldn't get the clock stopped and couldn't get guys lined up, and how it looked like they hadn't practiced at all a 2-minute drill. Yet we know that every NFL team practices the 2-minute drill to end every practice every day. And yet the Cowboys look like they've never done it before. And again, this is a veteran coach, as you said, a Super Bowl winning coach that completely falls on his face. This is the kind of thing that would get Mike McCarthy fired. He loses game 1 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You can't defend it. You can't say we're getting better, we're moving forward. Josh brought up a good point with the Cowboys, and we always, talk about Micah Parsons this year and how great of a player he is. The Cowboys defense is in shambles, and Diggs gets a lot of credit for, his interceptions and everything else. Diggs gets beat a lot, he gets beat a lot. And, I think when you watch the games inside and out and you see what it takes to win a Super Bowl, you're going, well, who can you count on? People right now are going to think I'm crazy when I say this, but if you watch and pay attention, dude, you can't count on him. He gets beat all the time. He does. Quality quarterbacks rip that guy apart on a regular basis. And the interceptions come because of mistakes, but I don't know, man. I'm just not sold on the Dallas Cowboys.
Me either, man. I'm looking at the playoff picture right now in the matchups. Which one interests you the most out of Seahawks, 49ers, Giants, Vikings, Cowboys, Bucks?
I'll go first. The Tampa Bay, Dallas, because all the other ones stink. All those matchups stink. We already know who's going to win those games, right?
Okay,
we
fine.
all know. We know San Francisco is going to beat Seattle. We know Minnesota is going to beat the Giants, and Tampa Bay is the only one that has a chance of pulling an upset. The NFC playoffs stink.
Yeah, they do stink. Okay, besides the Chargers and Jaguars, which game?
Mario, do you agree with that? Do you agree with me, or am I?
So there's one storyline that, let's say, I think it's going to happen. Packers beat Lions, and they get that last spot in the playoffs. They're going to face the Niners. And baby, one more time, Kyle Shanahan spank the Packers. LaFleur gets embarrassed. Aaron Rodgers is out. The cheeseheads cry, and they cry, and they cry. And I rejoice, and I pour myself some whiskey on the ice, and I rejoice to take a sip and go, Rodgers, another year wasted. So that's a storyline I'm looking forward to.
I hope it's the Packers. I hope it is. I hope you nailed it. I really hope it's then Josh, it changes for me. I really do want to see that game. I want to see the Niners against the Packers, because for whatever it is, Aaron Rodgers was disrespected by San Francisco on draft day, and not one time has he proven they made a mistake. Yeah. He gets his ass kicked every time. Every time he faces the Niners, especially in California. It's crazy. I don't know what it is with Aaron Rodgers. He's from California. He cannot win in California. Hell, he lost his last college game, the Holiday Bowl down here in San Diego. He got killed by the Chargers. Remember that a few years ago? And before they even moved into SoFi Stadium, it was like the worst game Aaron Rodgers has ever played. Why can't he win in California? He stinks. But for Mario, I know he loves it because he hates the Packers so much.
Oh, and could you imagine the third stringer gotcha? This
Yeah.
wasn't Trey Lance. This
Yeah.
wasn't Jimmy G.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait for the storyline.
Go ahead, Josh. You're about
Celebrating.
to set the table with something else.
I'll ask Mario, besides the Chargers and Jaguars, which game interests you more as it sits currently? The Patriots at the Bills or the Ravens at the Bengals?
Gosh. This, to me, it's going to be Ravens, Bengals, just because we have Lamar Jackson coming off so much rest. And I've said it a lot, too. Like, this is the contract year for him. Is he going to stay in Baltimore? What is he going to do? I would just be really interested in see what Lamar we get, how inspired that team is, and just Burrow in the playoffs just from last year, very fun to watch. It'd be interesting, like if Lamar can knock off the Bengals in the first round after not playing the past 3 to 4 weeks, how different it's going to change, how different perspective is going to change on Lamar Jackson heading into his end of this year. So that game to me is just stands out, or like I can't wait to see it. I'm interested in it. I'm interested to see what Lamar Jackson can do. And after the game, where does he stand with other top quarterbacks, and where will he stand in free agency?
Yeah, the game week 1, obviously in the playoffs, is going to be the Charger game. I mean, not just because we're talking Charger football, but that's the best matchup, right? When you're looking for the best game, as well as Trevor Lawrence has been playing right now, I don't think it's going to be Tennessee. If Joshua Dobbs can lead the Titans to the playoffs, that'd be something else. I do hope Tennessee is the team that Chargers have to face. I just think they'd have a better chance against the Titans than they do Jacksonville. But that would be the game. Honestly, I think that's probably your game in the week. And outside of TV rating wise, it's going to be the Cowboys and Brady. But if it's the Chargers against Jacksonville, that's the best matchup quality for quality, right? That's the coin flip game if you had to pick.
You're talking about Chargers, Jaguars?
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the game that a lot of people are going to be like, I don't want to watch that. That sucks because it's my team. I definitely want to watch that. I want to see Trevor Lawrence against Justin Herbert. I want to see what Trevor Lawrence can do the playoffs and Justin Herbert. Neither guy's made it so far. Trevor Lawrence, I saw him in person, actually, in the national championship when they kicked the crap out of Alabama and Santa Clara, and he was pretty damn good then. So I want to see him in the actual NFL playoffs. I think the Jaguars are a team that nobody really knows what you're going to get. But same with the Chargers. I also want to see Rashawn Slater play this week. We haven't mentioned that. If he plays, it's on, dude. I want to see him play again.
I do too. I absolutely do too. All right, when we come back in 2 days, guys, we're gonna obviously go through the injury report. We're gonna line some things up for you. Hopefully, we have good news, of course, on Damar Hamlin, and then we're gonna do our picks as well. Don't forget, there are games on Saturday, not playoff games. There are games on Saturday this week, and then of course on Sunday. I kind of like how the NFL does their schedule, the way the times the games are all meant to end around the same time, so guys don't rest players. So it'll be interesting as we just went through the playoff scenarios. At least one of those teams that we said is in the postseason will not be in the postseason. So things will change this week. So the NFL is always exciting. Can't wait to talk about what happens with the Chargers and Broncos, because so many people have been active on our last conversation, guys, on social media on our thoughts on how much the Charger players should play in this game against the Broncos and what it means to the team. So we'll discuss that as well. And of course, anything we hear with coaching situations, because the rumors are heating up big time with the Broncos either hiring Sean Payton or Jim Harbaugh as their next coach as well. So we'll address all that in a couple days, and we'll be back talking more Charger football as we're looking forward towards the postseason. For Josh Pillay, Mario Heron, I'm Dave Pallay. Thanks again for listening to the Bolt City podcast, courtesy of Odyssey.